The most frequent question I get is, can you make an episode about how you scan your work? So here we go. I'm gonna show you guys what setup I use, how I use it, and we are going to convert some negatives in Lightroom with Negative Lab Pro. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk It Over. First of all, none of these products are sponsored, just to make things clear. Also, I need to film this episode and the B-roll with the camera that's filming right now. And that's also the camera that I scan my negatives with, so I'ma just put my Rolleiflex SL on it just for fun. Normally I do this in complete darkness, so there's no light spill from the windows or other lights in the house, so here's how it looks like. So I've been using my Canon EOS R with a 100mm macro lens. Before that I was using a D850, a Nikon, with also 100 or 105 macro lens. The reason why I scan the work by myself and not going through a lab is because I want to be more hands-on. The thing is that I know exactly how the scene looked when I shot it and how I want it to look. And also, when you're shooting a lot of film and you develop and scan everything at the lab, things will get very expensive. So I'm using the basic kit that I bought a couple of years ago from Negative Supply. They already have a new version, but I'm still rocking the older one. It comes in 3 parts. The copy stand, the light source and the 35 film holder. I also bought a 120 film holder, but the process is really the same, so I'm just going to do 35 for this episode. One thing about this setup is that when I'm scanning 120 film or medium format film, the copy stand doesn't go high enough for my lens/camera setup, so I need to use my tripod, which works fine, but yeah. And for the future, I really want to have the bigger kit from Negative Supply. So if you want to help me reach that goal, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, visit my print shop. Thank you very much. To work this, you just grab a roll or strip of 35mm film and lead it through the holder. I usually center the frame and then focus on the grain. It might be a little bit tricky sometimes to get it right, but once you got it, it's good for the whole scanning session. Normally I have the shutter speed at 1/4 or 1/8 and my aperture at f11. But I take a look at my histogram and have it all a bit around the center. I have my camera connected to my PC and have it all loading right into Lightroom, so I won't have to touch my camera again. This speeds up the workflow, but it's also making sure the camera and negatives are aligned all the time. I also use this thing to see if everything is aligned and straight, but that's really it. When you have it set up, you're ready to go frame by frame. And then comes the most tricky part, I guess, where people have the most questions about, and that's converting the negatives in Lightroom. I'm using the plugin called Negative Lab Pro, which I've been using for a couple of years now, and I can honestly say I don't think I want anything else. But to show you guys how I do this, I will switch to screen recording and convert a couple of frames with you guys. Okay, so we are in Lightroom right now. The first thing you gotta do is pick the border with the white balance. Then you are going to crop the image like this. Don't be scared to crop a little bit too much, because you can always crop it back later. Yeah, like this. Then I have the shortcut for Negative Lab Pro, which is Alt-N. That brings up this dialog box. You can also go through plugin options and then Negative Lab Pro. But it's nice to have the shortcut. These settings are always the same for me. It's of course digital camera. For color model I use Noritsu. I like the look of Noritsu scanners. The pre-saturation I put at 3. Not too low, not too high, just a nice middle ground. And the border buffer at 5%. Then you hit convert negatives. So this is what it looks like straight out of Negative Lab Pro. It's already looking good, but I want to tweak it, so normally I put it to Lab Soft. I like a little bit more softer look, definitely at the start of processing these images. But I need a little bit more highlights, not too much. The darker parts could be a little bit darker. I think the blacks need to be around here. Maybe a little bit more detail in shadows. I also take a look at the histogram, making sure nothing is blowing out or way too dark. I think it needs a little less highlights. Yeah, just like this. I already scanned these images before. These are old negatives. This one is actually in my print shop. But for the sake of this video, I thought it would be nice to show these images. The white balance is on auto neutral right now. We can put it on auto warm if that's what you want, or cool. Normally I put it on auto neutral and just tweak it a little bit myself. A little bit. I think around this is nice. You also have a lot. I put it on frontier, just makes it pop a little bit more. You can also play around with this if you really like this look, or Pacon scanner look. But I just put it, most of the time I just put it on frontier, which is crazy because I just used the Noritsu preset. But yeah, let's go to the next one. Again, pick the border for the white balance, crop the image like this. And hit Alt N or open the plugin. And this is also already looking pretty good in my opinion. We hit Lab Soft, which again makes it a little bit softer. Could use a little bit more highlight, I think. Darker parts could be a little bit darker. I'm gonna up the whites to make it pop a little bit more. Make sure it's not clipping. And blacks down here. I think I like the white balance already, so I'm not gonna mess with the white balance. Yeah, that's it, I think. Hit apply, go to the next one. Again, white balance on the border and crop the image like this. Hit Alt N and convert negative. Again, we are going to do this at Lab Soft. The highlights a little bit up. I like the contrast, but the shadows could use a little bit more detail, so I'm gonna put the darks on 10 and the whites should be around this. Again, the blacks a little bit more, like -7. And this is where I think auto neutral makes it a little bit too cool. I guess it's because of the greens. Auto warm is way too off, so auto neutral, and we are going to warm it up a little bit like this, and maybe something like this. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. Hit apply. So what you have here right now are 3 negatives, which are converted, but are still raw images. So everything is converted. If you put the shadows to the right, you get it darker, as you can see, and highlights the same, colors the same. So what I do is I'm just gonna select all of these and going to export them, make it a TIFF, no compression, Adobe RGB with a 16-bit depth. And I'm not going to resize it, I'm just gonna export it. Choose your file location and hit export. And then we are going to import the folder that we just created into Lightroom again. At least this is how I do it. There might be another way, a quicker way, but this is what I'm comfortable with. So yeah, this is how I do it. So we have now the TIFF files in Lightroom, and as you can see, now if we do any adjustments, it's going the right way. Normally I don't do really much adjustments here. Maybe I want to take a little bit of the highlight off, a little bit more shadows. What I do is I add some texture, some clarity, which is helderheid in Dutch if you want to know. Sometimes if I think there is too much color, I do the saturation thing, but I think it's alright right now. And then I'm going to sharpen the image because it's okay, but it's not that sharp yet because I leave all sharpening off. So we're gonna take a look at this part of the image, and we are going to sharpen it just within Lightroom. So normally I just put this at 80. And that's pretty sharp in my opinion for a 35mm scan. After that, I take the, what do you call this? Spot removal tool, and just going to clean some of the dust. I don't think this one is too dirty, but clean some of the dust of this image. And I think it could be a little bit warmer. So I'm gonna just sync some of these settings, which will be sharpening and also texture and clarity. Those are the things that I want to have the same on all images. So I'm gonna just sync that, because on this image I don't really want to change anything. I think it's already looking pretty good. And on this one, maybe a little bit warmer. I don't want it to be too warm. And that's going to be it. So let's get back to the table. So really, that's how I scan and convert my negatives. I hope this was helpful. If you have any more questions, just hit me up in the comments down below. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Peace.